Bob, thanks so much for having us over. I really appreciate it.
Well, we're glad to have you.
Seems like there's a happy family around here.
Well, yeah, we've been in business for 63 years, and uh, we've kind of developed a family type atmosphere.
That's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit of your own background? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Bowling Green, Kentucky, which is about 70 miles south. Um, I I went to the Bowling Green Business University there, and I met a young lady there that I kind of liked, and she was from Owensboro, so she brought me back to Owensboro. And she was working for General Electric at the time, and I was still going to school, and we got married, and she found out that there was a wire company moving to town from Erskine Precision Wire in Emporium, Pennsylvania, and she was working for the purchasing department there, and she asked them if they would interview me. So I wasn't looking for a full-time job, I was looking for a summer job because I was still going to school. And so I interviewed, they hired me, and my summer job so far has lasted 63 years. So,
That's awesome. Wow, 63 years. So what year was it that you started?
1960.
Wow.
They had they moved in. They had 13 employees, and the 13 employees were all brought down from Emporium, Pennsylvania, and they set up this wire mill. And they did it primarily because the only product they had at the time was very fine wire for receiving tubes. And General Electric at that time had 6,000 employees, and they made receiving tubes here in Owensboro.
And what are receiving tubes?
What are receiving tubes? Well, at one time, radios and TVs had big tubes in them, and it's totally different now. They had great big tubes in them, and they were the tubes that they used to power the radios and TVs.
Incredible. Yeah, that's awesome.
And then in the mid 60s, the president of the company at that time had a stamping company in Emporium, in Long Island, New York, and Jay Johnson. And he started up a stamping operation in the mid 60s, and they made parts primarily for television guns, and you don't know what those are either.
Mm-mm.
They're before they had the TVs that they have today, they had an electron gun in the TV that supplied the power for the picture, for the picture tube. It had a great big tube in them. So, but the nice thing about our company is all those products have died, and we're still going because we were able to put on new products and this type of thing. Now, in the early 80s, as I understand it, there were two reps, one from New York, one from Chicago, and they were friends, and they were meeting in a bar one night, and they said that there must be something we can sell that's in this bar. And the band started playing, and one of them said, guitar strings. And they contacted us, and we got our first order with a company called, I think it was Dean Markley, and pretty soon we were selling them 60,000 pounds a month, and now we sell most of the major string makers all over the country and world. So
That's incredible.
but,
About what year was that you started guitar strings?
the early 80s.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And what is the process? How is that different from the other products that I mean, your same tooling can do both?
No, no,
Or
no.
did you have to redo?
It's basically the same process. It's what we're doing is we're taking wire at a larger size, and we're heat treating it and stretching. It's a controlled stretching that we use diamond dies and various dies that it goes through, and it's just a controlled stretching. And I forget what Brownie said that one one foot of wire when we get finished with it, and it's so many miles, but I don't remember what the exact things
Wow.
were. But
Stretching is the trick.
yep, it's a controlled stretching, but it goes through diamond dies that each one is a little bit smaller than the other one. But,
Very interesting. Yeah. And supplying the string part for other companies. It's like an OEM type of business for that.
yeah, we supply to Paladar and various string makers all throughout the world. And they make the strings and sell the strings.
Interesting.
But,
So you guys were already tooled up to do that process?
well, we were tooled up to draw wire. Now we've added here in the last several years. We've added we make the core wire now, and that's a plated wire, and we've added a plating machine and a process to make the core wire. So we make the complete. For many years, we didn't make core wire. We just made the strings, and that was the wrap wire.
So what other products do you provide?
Well, we have a metal. We still have a metal stamping. We make products for medical, electronic applications, and then we have we make wire products for medical, aerospace, and just a lot of applications where there are uses of fine wire. Now, when I'm talking about fine wire, I'm talking about 1.5 thousandths, 2 thousandths, and that's finer than the human hair. It's about 3 thousandths.
Wow.
But I say we've been doing it for a long time. So
Yeah. Seems like you really enjoy what you do as well.
I do. As I said, I'm 87 years old, and I don't work that hard, but I come in just about every day to see how things are going, and I've got good people, and I don't have to worry about a darn thing. I mean, they run the company, they make the decisions, and if there's something comes up that's major, then I'll get involved in it. But other than that, they run the company. And
Yeah, tell me a little bit about your staff. How has that changed and developed from 13?
well, we've got what do we got hired? About 60 people now. 60 people. At one time, now I will say this: at one time, our company, and I bought the company in 1983. But at one time in the mid 60s, we had 600 employees. Because of the TV, and the TV markets, the color TV exploded in mid-early 60s. And we had about 600 people, and we were making electron guns for television tubes. And of course, that changed over the years. So, but we've been fairly steady for the last several years, several years when I'm saying the last 20 years, with around 60, 70 people, but our sales have increased each year. So,
What do you attribute the increase in sales to?
well, one thing is we put the core wire operation in, plus the aerospace has kind of exploded. So
Very cool. Yeah, very interesting. Suzanne, something to add?
What's your favorite thing when you come in every morning?
cup of coffee. I come in to get, well, I would say it's free coffee, but it's not.
It's included.
It's included coffee, yes.
I just, I just enjoy. My dad never retired. My brother never retired, and it's the best of both worlds, really. You have to get up in the morning. You have to shower. You get dressed, and you don't lay in bed. You come into work, and then you leave around 10:30, and the rest of the day is yours. It's really it's a perfect semi-retirement. So
That's neat.
but,
So do you have a musical background?
no, my dad and son did. My dad was he had a radio program in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Ray Hudson and his Kentucky Mountain Boys, and he played music really all his life.
That's really
And
neat.
my son played the guitar. So,
So did your dad tour around or just have that?
he had a tour bus, and
Oh,
he
cool.
he went to schools and dances and this type of thing, and then he did that for years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he too never retired, huh?
Oh no. Dad was unique in that he was very mechanically minded, and he could almost do anything that was mechanical. So, but no, he played music up until he passed away.
Wow. That's really neat.
In fact, we've got some recordings of him that he's made.
So it was Ray
Ray Hudson.
and his band?
I think he had a noon radio program. Ray Hudson, I think it was the Kentucky Mountain Boys,
Okay.
and
That's
he
awesome.
he had a noon radio program, and he played. Bowling Green had a TV station, Channel 13, and he played on that sometimes on Saturday
Wow.
nights.
And tell me about your son. What does he play professionally?
No, he had a band of his own, and but he didn't do much professionally. He played rock. He played the music I don't understand. The heavy rock, I just don't understand that.
So it seems like you have a pretty good team here, and you get some longtime employees as well, I understand.
Yeah, we do. We have. We're very fortunate, right? But things are changing. People for the plant, we're having hellacious problems hiring people now. I mean, it's just, and the people we get, some of them only last a week or two, and so it's. I've never seen it like this. It's tougher now, and you train them for 2 or 3 weeks, and you put all that money to train them, and all of a sudden they're gone. So it's a strange situation. Hopefully it'll change. It's because it's never happened before.
What do you attribute that to?
I don't know. I think part of it is in some instances it's cheaper to stay at home than it is to work. If you've got but I have no idea what it is. Maybe it's the way people are raised this day. I don't know, but it is a big problem.
A different mentality, I think.
Yeah.
has
And
gotta contribute.
when I was growing up, hell, you had to work. I mean that was part of life, and I think that's changing. Too many video games and too many Netflixes and this type of thing. So,
Yeah, very interesting. Howard, anything else you want to make sure we cover? Any stories or?
I just think Mr. Hudson has an amazing story in that, it's the only job he's ever had
Yeah,
in
right.
a sense. And he, like you said, he started as an intern and, ultimately became the owner of the company. And I have a family history much like him is, people in my family, they worked the whole way through. And you really do have, I think, a culture
well, now
of that generation. That's all you know.
when you say I started as an intern, that's really not true.
I'm sorry.
I'm teasing. There were 13 people there, and I hadn't finished college. I was the purchasing agent.
Okay.
I was the accountant. I was the office manager, and I was the personnel manager.
You're the spark.
And I didn't know what the hell I was doing, I mean.
You learned it all.
So I was learn on the job. So,
And Robert, you bought the company 3 years later, is that right?
no, I bought it in 1983.
In 1983,
Yeah.
okay. I thought that was awfully fast.
A fellow that worked here was my partner for a while, Bill Cundiff, and I had 3 mortgages on my house, and the fellow that had that second and third mortgage, they weren't going to get much, So that I was 47 when I bought the company.
And what was that opportunity? Someone was retiring?
Well,
or-
we went through some rough periods over the years. For one thing, we struggled, and Texas Gas Transmission purchased the company in, God, I don't know, it was mid-60s, late 70s. And then they kept it for a while, and they kept it, and they got to wondering what the hell they were doing with it, you know. So they hired a fellow to come in and look at the situation and give them some suggestions, and they finally wound up selling it to him. His name was Ken Best, and Ken had the company for like 10 years. And we had since bought a company in Tennessee, and Ken wanted to move to Tennessee, so he found out, we worked it out, so he sold the company to myself. So
Interesting. Yeah.
but,
Was that nerve-wracking to take over ownership, or were you excited about it?
I pretty well knew what I was doing, you know. I mean, I had seen how people before me had screwed up, and so I learned some lessons by watching them, you know. Ken was a wonderful guy, but he was a hell of a salesman. And you would sit in his office, and he'd come up with this idea, and you say, "Oh, that's great, that's great," and then you'd go back to your office and you say, "That's not going to work." so that was the kind of type of guy he was. But as I say, I learned a lot from watching the people, and I hopefully did not make the same mistakes. So. Good.
So I'm sort of curious, what sort of advice would you give somebody who wants to be in this type of business?
Well, it's going to be nerve-wracking at times, and but in the end, it's going to be very rewarding that you're adding value to something. I've always said that a country needs two things to be very successful, and that's a good agricultural base and a good manufacturing base where they add value. And I think we're still okay with agriculture, but we're really losing out in this country on manufacturing, because China's making just about everything that we use now, and that's something that this country's got to change. But just it's going to be very rewarding, you know, if you approach it properly. You know.
Very well said. This is awesome. Anything else you want to make sure we talk about?
No,
I think you did a great job, and I really appreciate hearing this story.
Thank you.